Well, I finally figured out one of the ways I've been unintentionally sabotaging myself. I don't know if it's embarrassing or not, but I'll just say it, for the whole internet. I love to make plans, but it's been a struggle to follow the plans, and I made them myself. In this video, we're going to talk about plan adherence. Is the ability to follow through a plan you've made for yourself or with your team. Okay, let me know if you can relate to this challenge. You are very amped, you've got a lot of ideas, maybe you would even go further to call it vision, and you write it out and it feels real and you broadcast it with conviction, and then it's time to implement it, to do the work. And for whatever reason, you show up the next week, and instead of working the plan that you already made, that you already told everybody about, you're feeling restless. You want to do more research. You're gonna wander down some new trails and see what you find. You're working on a new project that's got more potential than everything else. This is the thing that's gonna make everything else possible. This is the stuff we tell ourselves on Monday morning. But I want to push back and say, why can't you and I honestly and consistently just follow the plans we made? Because if you want to be consistent, you're going to have to be intentional and write down a plan that you can follow, a plan for your day, a plan for your health, a plan for your finances, a plan for your communication, the key objectives in your organization. And yet it really is a struggle for a lot of people, specifically entrepreneurs and creatives and influencers and just visionary types, because man, you want to go where there are no roads, right? You want to trailblaze. You want to make a path in the middle of nowhere, and yet you were willing to carve out this road, and now you don't even want to use it because you just want to go make a new road somewhere. So with that in mind, I took a little bit of time to learn what's going on, what's motivating this awkward kind of quasi-procrastination, and how can you and I actually follow through and stick to the plan. So let me read some of the things I wrote for us. This skill goes by many names, such as follow through, plan-based execution, or plan adherence. The question I was trying to answer for myself, maybe you would appreciate it, is why don't I follow plans, even the ones I make for myself? Now that might sound ironic since I'm doing leadership and coaching and all this stuff. And yes, there's an element of, just throwing yourself into a project out of motivation or passion. But I'm talking about the more tedious kind of like systems that are needed to really scale your life and your leadership. So the root issue that I've found is this idea called planning fallacy. It basically means you make unrealistic plans without meaning to. One example is you're just really emotionally invested in the moment and you're writing it out and it feels real and you got your heart and soul pumping in this, and then when it's the next week or the next month, you don't feel the same emotional connection to it. Or maybe you're a little bit too analytical about it, and then you show up and you don't have the emotional connection with that work as well. So it can kind of go either way. Plan adherence is going to be the skill that you and I can learn this year in order to skyrocket our execution. Now, in order to kind of see this as a framework, there's actually two things that go into follow through, two things that we're going to need for plan-based execution. The first thing is called plan literacy, and the second is called plan adherence. Now, like I said, we're focused on plan adherence, but I want to explain these two in tandem. When we talk about plan literacy, this is really important for ourselves because we want to be leading by example. Also, it's really important for leaders because you and I are often making the plans that are going to be shared or that are going to be shipped out to others. When we talk about plan literacy, we mean it needs to be easy to follow. Is the plan easy to follow, or is it complicated? Is it too confusing? Did you just have this burst of inspiration and now it just doesn't translate to any of the real world operations? I think this really matters for leaders. We've got to be the first in line to figure this out. And if we're not willing to, then we will continue to overload the people we lead with and we serve with too much in the plan. The plan will be too dense. It will be too detailed. Maybe it's TMI, but it's got to be easy to follow. So questions to ask would be, is the plan too wordy? Is it too long-winded? Is all of this necessary for the action we're hoping for? Sometimes we get so excited about, man, this plan feels really good. Let me just keep going with it. We don't have an honest stopping point to the presentation that we call the plan. And we just end up loving the sound of our own voice instead of loving the accomplishment that comes with getting the team or getting yourself across that specific finish line. Another question is the plan visual? Because, if it's just like a really long essay, it's going to be hard for people to digest properly. How many times does it take us to say things before it actually clicks and sticks in other people's hearts and minds? Another question is the plan accessible? What that means is you had this big talk and everybody was nodding their heads, but now it's 3 weeks later or 3 months later, and it's like we're all scratching our head. What did we talk about? What was the goal? What was the plan? It's got to be so accessible we can go back to this thing on a daily or weekly basis. All right, in addition, we're going to move now to plan adherence. This is the thing we're really working on. This is the skill that's going to help us get better follow through. And it's the thing you got to do to follow your own plans, because otherwise you're just overworking and you're not going to feel a sense of closure. You're always going to be opening new loops and then you're not going to feel like you can finish any of them. So plan adherence means you're going to adhere to the plan you already made. So it's simple, but pretty profound, right? You're writing down a plan, that is plan literacy, and then you are reading the plan you just wrote. Sometimes we can get stuck in just one strength, and it's like, oh, I love writing. I'm just going to keep writing new plans. I'm going to keep making. And if you're not careful, you're going to bring a content creator mindset into the leadership chair when you shouldn't just be making more content. That is good, but that's for the public or the community or kind of external facing. We're talking about internal operations, the team, how the work is getting accomplished and how you are intentionally, incrementally getting to those, goals and gains that you're hoping for. And to do that, you gotta not approach this like just a content creator who loves to make up more content in the name of planning, and you've got to focus more on being an executor or an executive who is making decisions, holding yourself and others accountable, and then actually training / troubleshooting with others so that way the work can be accomplished. Plan adherence is a skill, and it's the ability to follow the plan you made. There's a really interesting case study that I think leaders in business and ministry can benefit from, and it actually comes from the military field of all places. There's a few concepts that they've been really disciplined about, and I'm not saying we have to take it so literally in the civilian space, but I do think that it's very beneficial to just, be introduced to some of that thinking. Things like the commander's intent is just amazing. If you just lead with intent, it could revolutionize your whole organizational culture. Instead of micromanaging, what you're doing is you're creating a clear intention that is going to be informed by cascading communication, and then people on those different front lines are being empowered to make decisions that stay in alignment with the commander's intent. There's some other things like I think it's called mission command and op ords, and I love learning about leadership in different fields. Military is definitely one of them, but I wouldn't get so pulled into all of the lingo that it just doesn't feel relevant in your context. But you need to see the working philosophy so that way you're being a good student and you're applying them where you can. The point is that you have to be intentional about your follow through. And the easiest way to improve your follow through when it comes to planning and execution is to focus on tasks and time, and then again, tasks and time. So task, time, task, time. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to talk about plan literacy, making the plan easy to follow. And the way we do that is with a two-step approach. You identify the top tasks, the most important things that you want to accomplish. And we're going to start with that in mind. So many times we get pulled into these very long-winded prelims, whether it's reviewing, our history, our bio, our bylaws, and we're kind of taking everybody through this whole kind of preamble, and then we're reviewing what everybody did the last 5 years and how it's all connected. It's too much. We're just thinking about what are the top tasks that need to be accomplished within the next time period. And then we're going to actually take those, elements, those decisions, and we're going to find the best way they fit in the timeline. And you may say, Peter, we already have people that do that. We have project managers and we have directors and VPs, and that's amazing. But what I'm saying is you have to lead by example. And so you can't just delegate something you don't understand. You can empower people to do things that free you up, but it really comes down to core values and culture and core competencies that create a leadership community. Otherwise, we are setting ourselves up for more frustration because responsibility is going to always roll back up. So instead, what we're doing is we're actually empowering people to start learning these concepts like, can you follow through? Is the plan easy to follow? Did you identify the most important tasks for the set calendar cycle? And then are you fitting it in time appropriately? So that's making a plan easy to follow. The second aspect is follow through itself, plan-based execution. And this is where we're going back to plan adherence. We're going to work on tasks just like a checklist. So when we show up to do work, whether it's Monday morning or Thursday afternoon, we are going to have a written plan that has tasks that we wrote down, and the tasks were organized based on the appropriate time that it makes sense. And so we show up for that day, we look at that written plan, we see the tasks in order that we can start to work through. Honestly, it doesn't mean that we're going to do the tasks in the same order, because there might be some need for flexibility there. But regardless, we're working through the task just like a checklist or like a runner is trying to get through checkpoints in time. And then we are going to have designated times where we look back and we answer the question, what did you do? What did you actually get done? So it's like at the beginning of the work session, we're thinking about tasks. How many of these actions can we accomplish in this time frame? And then when we time out, and it's like, hey, we're done, we're out of time, out of energy, out of daylight, then we're going to have a little bit of a reprieve or a debrief, and we're going to begin to document what actually happened. And we're going to review, okay, this is how things went. And so it's the both and approach. You've got to be thinking about the objectives or the tasks, and you've also got to be thinking about how it's going to fit into time. But the reason I like that order specifically is if we're not careful, we'll just look at a calendar and we'll say, okay, weekly planning session, here we go. Sunday night. And we're really dialed in on that, because that's like coming up in a few hours. And then it's like Monday, and you're like lunch. and then you're just kind of writing in all the things you already know about. And then by the time you get maybe 5-6, days out, you don't know what you're going to be doing. You don't know what you need to be responsible for. And then you either make up stuff or you're really passionate, and you get ambitious, and so you're writing all this stuff, and what you're doing is you're just falling into that planning fallacy trap all over again. Instead, what we want to do is, what are the actual steps, the next steps we need to take, and then when's the next best available time we can knock it out. And now it is kind of preloaded in the form of a written plan. Then when we show up to the work session, a structured timed work session, whether it's a starting time, quitting time, or it's actually like a meeting that a few people can come around, we're going to show up and say, okay, hey guys, these are the tasks. Let's work through them. We're going to do as much as we can, as best as we can, but there's going to be a time of, accountability where we have to document what actually got done. And then that becomes really, really helpful context when we're thinking about, the next part. So hopefully that all makes sense and it wasn't too boring, but I really want you to have a great year, and execution is going to be a make or break factor. Let me know if you've really struggled with follow through, and let me know how you're working on your follow through or your team's follow through right now. It will really encourage everybody to get some more examples. Please subscribe if you're going to become a more prepared leader this year. That's what this podcast is all about. And then I want to make sure that you knew that I am hosting a few prepared leader challenges, and they're scheduled out already. So just jump into the next available time, and I'll see you there. Thanks so much for being a part of this community of leaders in ministry and business. And remember, the future has so many fields waiting on you, so prepare to go there.